get scared.
I hate pictures.
This is going to be just added to the crawfish thing.
Oh, okay.
And I want to, let me ask you the first question. Where were you born?
Marshalltown, Iowa. July the 7th, 1927.
And what do you remember about the town and growing up there? How long did you stay there?
Till I was about 12 years old.
You tell me about what you remember.
I don't remember too much. Most of the time I spent in the hospitals. I wasn't at home that much.
Do you remember what the cold or any
Oh
special
yeah,
things
cold, a
about
lot of snow, falling down on the ice.
Remember anything about going to school?
Not too much. Go to school, we had to walk home for lunch, go back to school. But not too much about it. I mean,
What was your mother and father's name? What was like your mother's maiden name?
well, my mother's maiden name was Ream. My real mother's maiden name was Ream. And Daddy was a writing ball. And she died when I was about a year old. And I went to live with my grandma on my mother's side till I was 3 years old. And then I got polio. And they didn't want to take care of me then. So that's when he married Viola. And she took me from the age of 3 until I was grown up and married and took care of me.
Do you remember anything about her side of the family, like her mother and father?
No.
Remember any names or what their names might have been?
You mean on my real mother's
Your
side?
real mother.
I have an Uncle Bud, and I had an Uncle Ray that owned a pop factory, made soda pop. And there's still an aunt living, but I can't think of her name. I saw her when Daddy died. Can't think of her name right now. And then there's Daddy's sister, Midge. And
Grandmother.
my grandma she lived till she was 96. I saw her in 1979, I guess. And then she died shortly after that. That's about all I remember.
Your mother's family and your father's family both lived in Iowa?
Both lived in Iowa. Yeah.
You know anything about
I never knew my daddy's daddy because he was killed when my daddy was young. And he has half-sisters too, but I didn't know them. The only one I know is Midge, his real sister.
What do you remember about your father, your real father?
I don't know if you really want to know. Not too much good things that I can say. I mean, he's an alcoholic. And he I lived with him, but my brother never did. My brother always lived with my grandma. And I guess he was good in his own way, but not like father should be to me. And that's about all I can tell you about him.
Do you remember what your grandparents' names were?
I only knew one grandma, Viola, same as Mama's name was.
And she was the one that was
deaf, and had been deaf since she was 16 years old. Read your lips, could not sneak up behind her, you couldn't do nothing that she didn't know. And my brother lived with her most of the time because she always gave him his way, so he was a spoiled brat. And him, I have not seen him in about 35 years. Don't even know where he's at.
So after you was with your stepmother and stepfather, And you moved. Where did you move to from Iowa?
Iowa, went to South Dakota. From South Dakota to Nebraska, from Nebraska to Idaho, from Idaho to California. And that's where I met Daddy, California.
So in this time frame, you grew up in different places, and
Different schools, different places.
do you remember anything about those places in particular?
No, not really. I mean, it was just from place to place. Just you'd meet friends and then you'd have to leave. It really, nothing spectacular about it.
And how many brothers and sisters do you have?
One brother.
And what do you remember about him?
He was a brat. Grew up wanting to beat up everybody, punching trees. Bad kid. That's all I can say about him.
And he lived with you with your stepmother and father?
No, he lived with his grandma.
Never ever lived?
Him and I were never close. Never. I would see him once in a while, you know, but as far as being close, like a brother and a sister, no.
Do you know where he is today?
Somewhere in Arizona, the last I heard. That's all I know. He's been married twice. I've seen the first 5 children, but he had 5 with a second wife, which I have never seen.
How did you meet Daddy?
Daddy had brought some friend of his that was going out with the girl next door in a trailer park. And the fella stayed longer than Daddy thought he should. And he started blowing his car horn, and there was a girlfriend at my house. So she went, I said, go outside and tell him to quit blowing that horn, it's late. So she goes outside. She said, she'll be out in a minute. So I went outside and we got to talking, and he started dancing with the other girl, dancing all over the place out there with the music. And then he turned around and asked me for a date. But the night he come for the date, I wasn't there. I went somewhere else. But then he came back, and from there, I guess we only went together about maybe 4 months.
And this was in?
This was in Richmond, California, in 1944.
And you moved there because your parents went there?
Yeah, I was there with the parents. They worked in the shipyards. That was through the war. And the war was on, Second War. And Daddy...
That was Grandpa Amos?
No, that was my daddy and my stepmother. And Daddy worked in the shipyards. And then we left California. Let's see, Beverly was born May of 45, and we left August of 45 because Daddy was supposed to go in the service, and he wanted to bring me to his mom and dad's to stay. When we got to San Diego, the war had ended, and it took us 8 hours to get out of San Diego. It was so crowded with traffic and people screaming and hollering. The war was over. So we went to Donaldsonville, and we moved to, stayed there maybe a month. Then we went to Jefferson Parish, and Daddy worked there a little while, and then he found out about Port Sulphur, and he came down, went to work for Freeport. And Gary was born, so Gary was just a few months old when we finally got a house in Empire. We moved to Empire and stayed there, I don't know how many years. And then Daddy went to build houses back to Donaldsonville to build houses for his mama. But Freeport called him back, and he went back to work for him.
He got laid off from Freeport?
I think he just quit or something. He quit to go build the houses for his mama because she had to have some help. And
before he went to work at the street or Freeport,
he was working some welding place in town before he went to work at Freeport. And we stayed in Donaldsonville to see Linda was born. And I think Bruce was born in Donaldsonville.
so Beverly was born in.
Beverly was born in California. And Gary was born in, we were living in town, but he was born in Donaldsonville because I was at Momo's. And Linda was born in Fort Sulphur. I think Linda was the baby. Yeah, Linda was the baby when we went back to Donaldsonville. And then they called him back. Bruce was born in the meantime. And then Wendy was due to be born when he come back to work. In fact, she was 3 days old before Daddy knew she had been born. And then she was 3 weeks old, we moved back, and we've been back here ever since. Of course, you were born then. After we saved enough money to buy our property and build our house, and then moved in it, and then you were born about a year after that. You've been right here ever since then.
Daddy worked at Freeport.
Daddy worked at Freeport for 34 years and retired in 1978.
Over your whole life, what do you think is the highlight of your life that you can think of?
I think just raising the family, the children. That's about the only enjoyment I think you really get out of life is raising them and then seeing them grow up to be good adults, having good jobs, and having families of their own. Now we look forward to the grandkids.
And do you think, are you happy with the way you raised your children? Do you think?
Yeah, I'm well satisfied. I think they all came out fine. All got good jobs, got a good family, take good care of them. I'm proud of all of them.
And to sum up everything, if there was one thing you could change, or if there was anything you could change, or something you could reflect back on, and how you would like people to remember you, your family, your friends, relatives, what would most likely be the biggest thing in your life that you'd want everybody to remember you as or for?
The only thing I can think of is I tried to be a good person and hope that people liked me. There's nothing real special. I've never done anything special. That's all I know, is to be liked by myself for what I am.
Okay, that's all I have.